In the vast silence of the cosmos, we have always wondered, what is reality? Is reality a solid truth or a fragile illusion shaped by the mind? Ancient sages, modern scientists, all seeking the same answer. Beyond the limits of our senses, beyond the edges of time and space, lies a mystery far greater than we can imagine. The journey is not just through the stars, but deep into the mind itself. What if everything you've ever known is only the beginning? This is the perception code. Have you ever paused to question the very fabric of your experiences? That morning cup of coffee, the comforting warmth of sunlight on your skin, the spontaneous laughter shared with a friend. What if all these sensations are not what they seem? What if reality itself, as you perceive it, is nothing more than a grand illusion? Imagine for a moment that the world around you is not a tangible, external place, but rather a complex projection playing out inside the theater of your mind. What if time, space, and even your own identity are constructs, carefully woven by your brain rather than independent truths? This is not merely the stuff of science fiction or idle daydreams. For millennia, humanity's greatest thinkers, ancient sages, mystics, philosophers, and now cutting-edge scientists, have grappled with this profound enigma. Across distant cultures and eras, from the spiritual wisdom of Vedanta and Buddhism to the skeptical reflections of René Descartes, and from the metaphysical inquiries of medieval philosophers to the latest breakthroughs in neuroscience and quantum physics, the question remains the same: what is truly real? Consider the teachings of Vedanta, where the universe is described as Maya, an illusion veiling the ultimate reality beneath, or the Buddhist concept of anatta, which denies any permanent, unchanging self, suggesting that what we call I is simply a transient pattern of experiences. Descartes famously questioned the certainty of all knowledge, famously concluding cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Yet even this foundational certainty depends on the existence of the thinking self, which itself could be deceived. These traditions and thoughts invite us to doubt our senses and question the assumptions that underlie our everyday reality. Modern science deepens the mystery. Quantum mechanics reveals a world where particles exist in states of probability until observed, where the act of measurement changes reality itself. Neuroscience shows that our brain constructs a coherent narrative from streams of electrical impulses, sometimes creating vivid hallucinations or dreams indistinguishable from waking life. Have you ever wondered why a nightmare can feel so real, or why a virtual reality headset can transport you to an entirely different world? These phenomena expose the fragile boundaries between perception and reality. What if, beyond our immediate sensory world, there are layers of existence we cannot yet detect? Theories in physics propose the existence of multiple dimensions, parallel universes, and even that consciousness itself may be fundamental to the fabric of reality. In this view, the world you experience might be just one of countless possible realities, shaped by the interplay between mind and cosmos. Now, standing on the threshold of this vast unknown, we invite you to journey with us beyond the familiar. Step across the invisible boundary where perception meets mystery and peer into the hidden layers beneath what we call real. The perception code is not just a place of questions. It is where curiosity ignites, where the impossible begins to unfold. Here, the journey is both outward and inward. It leads us beyond stars and galaxies, and deeper still into the uncharted realms of consciousness itself. This is an invitation to explore not only the cosmos, but the very essence of existence, your own mind, your own awareness, and the profound mystery of being. Imagine your senses as skilled translators tirelessly converting the raw data of the external world into a format your brain can understand. Light waves strike your retina, sound waves vibrate your eardrum, chemical molecules interact with receptors on your tongue and skin, but none of these raw inputs are directly seen, heard, or felt by your conscious mind. Instead, your brain constructs an internal map, a symbolic language made of electrical impulses and neural patterns. This map is unique to you, shaped not only by biology, but also by your individual experiences and memories. Take the color red, for example. It isn't a fixed property of the apple or the sunset you see. Rather, it's the brain's interpretation of a specific range of wavelengths of light. Someone else, with different sensory wiring, might perceive that same wavelength differently, or not at all. Similarly, the sound of a violin isn't just air vibrating. Your brain assembles those vibrations into recognizable tones, emotions, and even memories. That same sound might evoke nostalgia in one person, irritation in another. Our perception, then, is a carefully edited movie rather than a live broadcast of the outside world. This editing can be so powerful that it sometimes deceives us. For instance, phantom limb syndrome is a fascinating example where amputees still feel sensations, even pain, in limbs that no longer exist. This reveals how the brain's representation of the body can be independent of actual sensory input. Optical illusions offer another window into this complex process. When you see a still image that seems to move, or a pattern that shifts color depending on how you look at it, you're witnessing the brain's attempt to make sense of ambiguous information, often filling gaps or making assumptions based on past experience. Similarly, our brains can fill in missing information when we hear muffled speech or see objects partially hidden, constructing a coherent experience from incomplete data. Even our sense of time is a mental construct. Studies show that time can seem to slow down during emergencies or speed up when we are deeply engaged. This means that what we perceive as the passage of time is filtered through emotional and cognitive layers, further emphasizing the subjectivity of experience. Moreover, cultural differences influence perception as well. Colors, smells, and even tastes can be experienced differently depending on cultural background and learned associations. For example, the taste of fermented foods might be delicious to some cultures but off-putting to others, despite the chemical properties being identical. All of this points to a profound truth. Reality is not a static, objective entity waiting out there to be captured by our senses. Instead, it is a dynamic, personalized construction continuously edited and reinterpreted by the brain based on biology, past experience, expectation, and context. What you experience as the world is, in essence, your brain's best guess of what is real. Humans perceive only a tiny sliver of the immense sensory possibilities the universe offers. For example, your eyes detect visible light, which makes up only a small fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. Beyond this narrow band lie radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays, all invisible to our naked eyes, yet constantly interacting with the world around us. These signals pass through our environment unnoticed, carrying information we can't access without technological assistance. But the sensory limits don't stop there. While humans rely heavily on sight and hearing, other species have evolved senses that allow them to experience the world in ways we can barely imagine. Bats use echolocation, emitting high-frequency sounds and interpreting the returning echoes to see their surroundings in total darkness. Sharks possess the remarkable ability to detect electric fields generated by the muscle contractions of other animals, enabling them to hunt even in murky waters where vision is useless. Migratory birds navigate thousands of miles guided by Earth's magnetic field, a sense humans completely lack. Even within the human species, sensory perception varies widely. Some people, due to rare genetic mutations, can perceive ultraviolet or infrared light, wavelengths typically invisible to others. Synesthesia is another fascinating phenomenon where sensory boundaries blur. Some individuals might see sounds as colors or taste shapes, highlighting how the brain can blend sensory inputs in unique ways. Furthermore, there are senses most humans don't consciously recognize but rely on nonetheless. Proprioception, for instance, allows you to sense the position and movement of your own body without looking, while vestibular senses govern your balance and spatial orientation. All this points to a profound conclusion. Reality is not a fixed, universal truth perceived the same way by all beings. Instead, it is a deeply personal experience constrained by biology. Our reality bubble is akin to peeking through a tiny keyhole at the vast mansion of existence, only glimpsing a limited, subjective slice of what truly is. Technology dramatically expands this bubble. Telescopes peer across billions of light years to reveal galaxies, nebulae, and black holes. Microscopes open doors to the hidden world of cells, bacteria, and viruses. Radio telescopes eavesdrop on cosmic whispers, while infrared cameras capture heat signatures invisible to us. Devices detect ultraviolet radiation from the sun or measure gamma rays from cosmic explosions far beyond our sensory reach. But even with these tools, what we perceive remains a translation, an interpretation by instruments and human minds rather than the pure, unfiltered essence of reality itself. This raises a humbling question. If our perception is so limited and mediated, how much of reality lies forever beyond our grasp? Could there be entire dimensions, energies, or beings that exist entirely outside the scope of human senses and technology? As we push the boundaries of perception, we simultaneously expand the mystery, reminding us that the universe is infinitely more complex and wondrous than our senses can reveal. The intersection of science and philosophy has long been a fertile ground for exploring the nature of reality, a crossroads where empirical observation meets abstract reasoning. From ancient myths to modern laboratories, humans have sought not only to understand what reality is, but also how we can know it at all. Plato's allegory of the cave remains one of the most enduring metaphors for the limits of human perception. In his story, prisoners are chained inside a cave, seeing only shadows cast on the wall, believing these shadows to be the whole of reality. The allegory invites us to ask, if our senses are limited, how can we be sure that the world we experience is not just a shadow play shaped by deeper truths we cannot see? This theme resonates across centuries, influencing thinkers from medieval mystics to contemporary scientists. In the 20th century, science itself revolutionized our understanding of reality structure. Albert Einstein's theories of relativity shattered the idea of time and space as fixed backgrounds, revealing them as flexible and interconnected. Time could dilate, space could warp, and the universe was stranger than Newton's clockwork cosmos. Quantum mechanics then pushed the mystery further, showing that particles behave as both waves and points, and that observation itself can influence the outcome of events. The observer effect in quantum physics reignited philosophical debates about the role of consciousness in shaping reality. Modern neuroscience adds yet another layer. Researchers investigate how billions of neurons create the seamless experience we call consciousness. Experiments with brain stimulation, anesthesia, and virtual reality reveal that our sense of self and world can be altered or even erased, raising questions about what, if anything, is truly fundamental to our experience. Donald Hoffman's interface theory brings evolutionary biology into the discussion. According to this view, natural selection didn't shape our senses to reveal the truth about reality, but rather to create a simplified user interface, like icons on a computer desktop, that helps us survive. Trash bin icon on your screen doesn't resemble the complex data structure behind it. And likewise, the apple you see doesn't necessarily resemble the ultimate reality from which it arises. Immanuel Kant, centuries earlier, offered a related insight. We can never know the thing in itself, only the phenomena. Reality is filtered through the categories of our mind. Space and time, Kant argued, are not properties of the external world, but frameworks imposed by human cognition. Other thinkers have carried this dialogue forward. Physicist John Wheeler suggested a participatory universe, in which observers play a fundamental role in bringing the cosmos into being. The philosopher Hilary Putnam explored brain-in-a-vat scenarios, echoing Descartes' demon, but updated for the age of technology. Meanwhile, cognitive scientists investigate how predictive models in the brain construct the flow of experience, suggesting that perception is an active hypothesis about reality. Together, science and philosophy do not hand us a final, settled answer to what reality is. Instead, they reveal it as a vast, intricate puzzle, one that evolves as we learn more, and one that may never be fully complete. But in this endless questioning lies the beauty of human curiosity. Every answer opens new doors, and every mystery deepens our wonder. Quantum physics challenges not only our classical intuition, but also the very foundations of how we define reality. In the famous double-slit experiment, electrons or photons fired at a screen behave in ways that defy everyday logic. When unobserved, they pass through both slits simultaneously, creating an interference pattern as if they were waves spread out in space. Yet, the moment we measure which slit they pass through, the wave-like behavior vanishes, and they act like discrete particles. This sudden collapse of possibilities into a single outcome is known as wave function collapse, and it lies at the heart of the so-called observer effect. At the quantum scale, reality appears probabilistic rather than deterministic, meaning that certainty gives way to likelihoods until observation chooses an outcome. This raises profound questions. Does measurement cause reality to crystallize, or does it simply reveal what was already there? Physicist John Wheeler famously summarized this puzzle with the phrase, "No phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon." Some interpretations, such as the Copenhagen interpretation, accept the collapse as a fundamental feature of quantum mechanics. Others, like the many-worlds interpretation proposed by Hugh Everett, avoid collapse entirely by suggesting that every possible quantum event occurs, each in its own branching, parallel universe. In this view, there are countless versions of you reading this text right now, each in a different timeline where outcomes diverged at the quantum level. Quantum entanglement adds another layer of mystery. When two particles interact in certain ways, their properties become linked so that measuring one instantly determines the state of the other, even if they are separated by light years. Albert Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, skeptical that nature could work in such a way. Yet, decades of experiments, including the groundbreaking work of Alain Aspect in the 1980s, have confirmed that entanglement is real and that it appears to transcend the limits of classical communication. This has led to revolutionary developments in quantum cryptography and quantum computing, but also deepened the philosophical riddle. How can distant parts of the universe remain so intimately connected? Quantum tunneling offers another example of nature's strange behavior at small scales. Particles can pass through energy barriers that would be impossible to cross in classical physics, as if a tennis ball could magically appear on the other side of a wall without going over or around it. This effect is not just theoretical. It powers nuclear fusion in the sun and is used in technologies like the tunnel diode and scanning tunneling microscope. These phenomena force us to reconsider the solidity of the world. At the quantum level, particles do not exist in definite places until measured. Instead, they are described by mathematical probability waves. Some scientists and philosophers speculate that consciousness itself might play a role in the measurement process, making reality fundamentally participatory. This is a controversial idea. Mainstream physics often treats observation as any interaction with the environment, not necessarily involving a conscious mind. Still, the debate lingers, especially as quantum mechanics continues to resist purely mechanistic explanations. The implications ripple outward. If reality is probabilistic, then determinism, the idea that the future is fixed given the present, may be incomplete. If parallel worlds exist, then reality may be a vast multiverse where every possibility happens somewhere. And if consciousness is woven into the fabric of quantum events, then perhaps the universe is not a cold, indifferent machine, but something more like an intricate conversation between mind and matter. Consciousness remains one of the most perplexing and profound mysteries in both science and philosophy. How is it that electrical signals and chemical reactions within the brain give rise to subjective experience, the vivid feeling of being, and the inner movie of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions? This so-called hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers, emphasizes the gap between objective neural activity and the subjective quality of awareness. While we can observe brain activity on scans, no measurement directly reveals what it feels like to be you at this moment. Some materialist theories propose that consciousness is an emergent property, much like how the wetness of water emerges from the interaction of individual H2O molecules. According to this view, once the brain reaches a certain level of complexity, awareness simply switches on. Others argue that consciousness is not a byproduct, but a fundamental ingredient of reality itself. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, famously declared, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness," suggesting that mind precedes matter rather than the other way around. Philosophical frameworks such as panpsychism extend this idea, claiming that all matter, from electrons to galaxies, has some primitive form of experience. In panpsychism, consciousness is not an exclusive property of biological brains, but a basic feature of the universe, much like space, time, or energy. Similarly, biocentrism, advocated by scientist Robert Lanza, argues that life and consciousness are central to reality's structure, and the universe exists in a form shaped by the observer's awareness. Other speculative ideas treat consciousness as a field, similar to the electromagnetic field, that interacts with physical processes. Some neuroscientists explore whether the brain might be more like a receiver or tuner of consciousness rather than its sole generator, a perspective that would radically shift our understanding of death, memory, and the mind. There are also intriguing theories at the intersection of physics and consciousness, suggesting that quantum effects within neurons could play a role in generating awareness, as proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff in the orchestroid theory. Technological and scientific advances are providing new windows into consciousness. Brain-computer interfaces allow thoughts to control external devices, revealing the mind's direct link to physical action. Neuroimaging techniques such as fMRI and MEG can map patterns of brain activity correlated with different mental states. Artificial intelligence research raises fresh questions. Could a sufficiently advanced AI become conscious, or is biological life required for true awareness? Beyond science, contemplative traditions have explored consciousness for millennia. Meditation, mindfulness, and psychedelic experiences have been reported to alter states of awareness profoundly, suggesting that consciousness may be more flexible and expansive than our ordinary waking state implies. Studies of these altered states show measurable changes in brain activity, but they also highlight the subjective richness that resists purely material explanations. Ultimately, consciousness challenges our deepest assumptions about reality. If it is indeed fundamental, understanding it may require a paradigm shift as significant as the scientific revolutions brought by Copernicus or Einstein. For now, it remains an open frontier, one where philosophy, neuroscience, and physics converge in a quest to understand what it truly means to be aware. As we step beyond traditional boundaries of understanding, a compelling question arises. What lies beyond the reality we think we know? Many spiritual traditions, from Hinduism's concept of Brahman to Sufi mysticism's idea of divine unity, describe higher states of consciousness in which the sense of separation between self and universe dissolves. These states are often portrayed as timeless, spaceless realms where awareness expands into something boundless. Accounts of near-death experiences frequently report encounters with radiant light, feelings of overwhelming peace, or life reviews in which events are seen with deep clarity and compassion. While skeptics attribute these phenomena to brain chemistry under extreme stress, others view them as glimpses into a greater reality that exists beyond physical life. Similarly, mystical visions experienced by saints, shamans, and meditators across cultures often share strikingly similar patterns: symbolic imagery, sensations of transcendence, and a profound certainty that the experience was more real than real. In recent decades, psychedelic research has provided a scientific framework to explore these altered states. Substances like psilocybin, LSD, and DMT have been shown to temporarily disable the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for maintaining our ordinary sense of self, resulting in a radical shift in perception. Users often describe encountering hyper-real environments, sentient beings, or infinite geometric landscapes, leading scientists to question whether these are purely internal phenomena or windows into alternate dimensions of mind and matter. Meanwhile, Emerging technologies blur the lines between the actual and the artificial. Virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, can simulate worlds with such vivid detail that the brain responds to them almost as if they were physical environments. A person standing on a virtual cliff might feel genuine vertigo, even while knowing they are in a safe room. These technologies highlight a provocative truth. Realness is as much about the brain's interpretation as it is about objective existence. Other scientific frontiers, such as simulation theory, take this further, suggesting that our entire universe could be a sophisticated computational construct, a cosmic-scale VR running on unknown hardware. If this is the case, exploring the boundaries of reality becomes a quest to understand the rules of the simulation and whether it can be transcended. The journey beyond reality is thus both outer exploration and inner odyssey. Outer, in the sense of probing space, time, and parallel universes through cosmology and physics. Inner, in the sense of expanding human consciousness through meditation, dream exploration, and intentional shifts in perception. Ultimately, these pursuits remind us that reality is not a static endpoint, but an evolving adventure continuously shaped by curiosity, imagination, and the mysterious interplay between mind and cosmos. Perhaps the greatest secret is not that other worlds exist, but that we have always been walking between them.